Okay, in previous videos, we've talked about the role of course coding, and we've seen them in various locations. We've talked about them in the Program and Course Approval Handbook. We also touched upon them in the Codes and Dates page of Curricunet. Now, the interesting thing about coding is depending on how a given college functions, this data is handled differently. Historically, coding of courses was something that was largely facilitated through my predecessor in this role and perhaps in somewhat of consultation with the deans. All of those personnel who did that have gone on to different roles or retirement or what have you. So we're left to look at this process now and ask, is this the right way to do things? What you'll see in course coding is that a lot of the content of how we code courses is inherent in the curriculum itself. So I am of the strong belief that faculty can and should play a large role in determining how their courses are coded. The problem is coding as a discipline is kind of cryptic because all we're doing is staring at numbers and crosswalking them to definitions, etc. So you are going to be a resource to faculty in helping determine what their codes should be by pointing them to resources like the ones I'm showing you now, or helping to translate for them the impacts of any coding decisions that they make. So what I want to bring you to is one other tool that I often reference in this role, which is the Chancellor's Office Data Element Dictionary. And we can do that literally. As you can see here, I Googled CCC Data Element Dictionary, and the first element link that it brings me to is Data Element Dictionary. I can fact check that I'm at that because it's CCCCO, which is the California Community Colleges, and we're going to click on that. And again, it brings us back to the California Community College's Chancellor's Office site and the data element information. You might want to go ahead and bookmark this. I see that since I've been here, I've neglected to put it up here, but I check it at least 4 to 5 times a year. For California Community Colleges, there are a number of data sets. In curriculum, we pretty much deal with 2 of those sets. If we skim down this list here, we can see that there are assessment data elements. So when they're measuring actually how much students have learned. Financial aid data elements, matriculation data elements, matriculation being the process through which students come to enroll at the college and register for courses and assess and get counseling, etc. We don't really touch that. We are concerned with course data elements and student program award data elements. The other individual who is very interested at a very pragmatic level with how the data elements work is the district researcher, who at this time is Shauna Dean. Shauna is the person who, after we input our data elements that have been approved by the Chancellor's Office, after we put them into the appropriate places in DataTel, Shauna is the person who's literally responsible for submitting data on behalf of Columbia and Modesto Junior College to the state MIS, who chews up and processes our data and looks for errors. So oftentimes you're going to field calls from Shauna where she's saying, I'm getting this error with this course or this program or this student record because of the program or course that they took. So let's start by looking at course data elements. That is the most robust set that we look at. And this gives you your list of elements, and these are instructions for Shauna. And then this tells you the CV00, CV01, and it gives you the title of what that element is. If you click on one of these links, it brings you right to a nice document that gives you, again, the element code for the purpose of the Chancellor's Office, the format that Shauna has to submit it in, and the formal name of that element in the Chancellor's Office MIS. One thing to know about being in this role is what something might be called in one context might be called something different in another one. So it escapes me at this time, but I know that the CV00 element or the course control number has a very different field label when you go to put it into DataTel, but we'll touch upon that later. But that is something, something tricky you have to navigate. And this tells you this is unique. This data element is generated by the Chancellor's Office, and it uniquely identifies a course, not just in the district, statewide. The control number is not to be altered by the reporting college district. So say, for example, you're given the course control number by the Chancellor's Office, and you put it into DataTel, and you mistype one of the numbers for whatever reason. and we go to submit that course to the state, we're going to generate an error. So that is how we're protected from making mistakes. We have an opportunity to fix them if we make a mistake, but just an FYI. All new courses will require a control number from the Chancellor's Office before the course may be reported in a data submission. So knowing this is the new process for reporting our courses and our student enrollments in those courses. We can look back at some practices that some faculty on this college have been accustomed to being able to do. They could create experimental courses, which means that they're like, we just want to try offering this course and see how it goes. Well, then they would put it on the books and they'd set up sections, but then it would kick out an exempt error, and it would not allow us to collect apportionment for that course. So this is where Chancellor's Office processes are going to affect you in your role, and also have you giving messages back to the faculty, oops, you can't do that. Maybe we could do it 3 years ago, but now the way the Chancellor's Office works, we can no longer do it. We're going to go back to the previous page that here we are, course data elements. So when you're looking at these elements on the State Chancellor's Office website, you can click on them and you not only get a description of what they are, but some of the coding logic that goes along with them. So for example, let's click on top code. We went through the taxonomy of programs earlier and saw how those different programs have different codes associated with them. And this one looks like it's not going to be, oh, here we go. The top code, here's a link again to that document, which hopefully you've added as a favorite on your computer. This is telling us that this must be one of the top codes provided by the Academic Affairs Division of the Chancellor's Office, as listed in the Taxonomy of Programs booklet. And what this is doing is it's telling you the integrity check. So the integrity check functionally serves to ensure that the colleges are coding their courses and programs logically. So for example, you cannot have a course that you code as associate degree applicable that's also a basic skills course. Those two codes cannot be associated with each other on the same course or program. And the coding will get errors from district MIS if we code them the wrong way. So for example, if CV22, which is the non-credit category of A, which is ESL, the CV03, which is the top code, must be one of these top codes in here. So it kind of scripts out some of those scenarios for you so you don't have to bang your head against the wall. And what you'll find is as you get to know the taxonomy of programs and you get to know all these codes, the logic, you're going to start to see the logic of why this is so. Let's try another one. If CB22, which is non-credit category, is D, which is the health and safety category, the CB03 top code must be one of the following. It must be one of these codes, which when you go and look at the descriptions of the top codes, you're going to say, oh yeah, that makes sense. We don't want to say that this is a music course or an advanced swimming course if it's health and safety. Okay, so we will go back to the data elements, and what you will become very familiar with all of these. Some of them are archived. They might indicate that they're deleted. I have in my list, for example, that CB16, CB17, CB18 are now deleted. They are no longer in use. Some other ones, such as the course CAN code and the course CAN sequence code. The CAN system pre-existed what we now call CID. We are currently not using these data elements in DataTel, but we might anticipate that these values will get replaced sort of system-wide by the use of CID in the same elements in DataTel.